Hey, what's going on, guys? Xbox on the channel. We'll say it forever here. Touch a little politics this morning. Kind of want to get a few things off my chest, man. Kind of help some of you guys out there, because I know, man, because I'm on the Republican side of the aisle when it comes to politics. Actually, again, like I said in previous videos, it's Christian, conservative, Republican, and it's definitely in that order, right? As you guys know, man, I'm a little bit older than most of you guys. I grew up in the Reagan era, and that pretty much solidified my politics growing up in the 80s and 90s. And flash forward to the 2025, and I see a lot of people that are coming over to the Republican side, which is cool, right? But I don't think a lot of you guys understand what it means to be a Republican, especially now in the current year in 2025. Some of the people that are coming over to the party don't understand how the Republicans actually work. They don't realize how bad politics is, because of course the Republican Party promotes itself as the common sense party, right? The party for the people, the party that's supposed to be against big government. There's a lot of things that that attract people, especially people um, that kind of get their eyes open, that get red pilled, right? That realize that something's wrong with the matrix, right? And they want to actually do something about it. And so there's a lot of people coming into the party, which I think is good because the party itself needs it. The party, it's been, if I'm being honest, right, the Republican Party has just been kind of like this wishy-washy party, and it needs some new blood. And that's our politics in general, guys. You see that, you see even people on the left talking about it. Now, I wouldn't go down the socialist communist road that the Democrat Party is going. I mean, we're on the opposite end of it of that, but we do need, as you can tell by what's going on in the news, and we're going to clear all that stuff up, man. There's a lot of stuff being said out there about what's happening, which is just not true. Um, but we could use some new blood, and what I mean by new blood is that there's people that came aboard in 2024 for the election, guys like Scott Pressler, um, a lot of the guys that do podcasts, right? And I'm not saying that they're Republicans, but they were that uh, new injection political activists that the party needed. Republican Party is very old by nature, and I don't have a problem with that. Look, for me, it's not about the ageism, but I do have a problem with the Republican Party is their inability to fight for things, right? And this is a problem we've been having since the 2000s, the early 2000s, right? In fact, when Reagan left office, he's probably the last Republican president that was actually good at standing up for common sense, for reason, and then also getting his point across um, with a wink and a smile. And a lot of people like that about Reagan. That's how he had one of the most devastating electoral or election wins of any president ever in his second term. I think the only states he didn't win was like Minnesota or and Hawaii, but he won every other state, and it stood the test of time. Fast forward to now, you have somebody like President Trump, who's kind of the opposite of what Ronald Reagan was. He still has a lot of the trappings of Reagan, that's most definitely, but the president is not a conservative. He has conservative leanings. The reason why people, this is where people get wrong about President Trump. The reason why people like President Trump because he's gone through this transformation within his lifetime that a lot of people are at themselves, and that's why they voted for him. You know, a lot of people that voted for him are not Republicans. In fact, if you guys look at 2016 and you look at the Republican Party, he was a shock to the system, not just for the Democrats, but for the whole political system. Because the way politics is in Washington, D.C., he is definitely an outsider. And he still is to some point, right? This is why he has battles with the Republicans, right? And so when he came in, dude, for me, he was the person, he was created for that moment, right? Because of choices that both parties have made, the way our politics is, the way our education system is, right? The way we identify as citizens of this country, right? But like if you ask a lot of people, they say that America is a democracy, which is not. It's a republic. It's a constitutional republic, and that's very important. That's what sets us apart from other countries in the world, right? If you study history, then you guys know about the French Revolution that happened during that time. That's something that America wanted to avoid, and that's why the Constitution itself is such an important document. It's very foundational to what makes our country the way it is, the way we run our country, our laws, all of that. That is the main document. I find it interesting because I just did training on this and it was really good. It was a really great refresher. Um, and I think a lot of people need to do that because I'll be honest with you, man. A lot of you guys, man, need to take a civics class. All the stuff that's being said, and I do understand there's two train of thoughts, right? There's people that are wrong, and ignorant in the proper sense of the word, that she doesn't understand how things work and why things are the way that they are. You have people like that. Then you have people that don't care. The people that just want to win at all costs. Hey, what's up, Faded? Yeah, I'm doing another political podcast. Not much going on with gaming, bro. At least from my perspective, I've been enjoying Outer Worlds 2. Um, I wasn't able to play Outer Worlds 1, so Outer Worlds 2 is definitely a step up for me as far as visually. I don't get motion sickness when I play. But thanks for being here, brother. We're just gonna carry this. Any questions you have, dude? I'll answer. Well, you can chat it up and then we'll do it. Won't be a long video today, man. I just want to get this rant out, or just political rant out, and then we'll carry on. But thanks for being here, bro. Um, yeah. So, I mean, for case in point, man, and we'll get this out here in the open, right? Because I see that the news media, and then I see that the left and the radical left and Democrats in general, I just don't like Democrats. I'll be 100% honest with you guys. Um, and one of the reasons I can't stand them is you just lie. They lie all the time. That's all they do. Is just constantly lie. Right? So let me drop some knowledge on you guys, and I'm glad I'm seeing other people do videos like this as well, right? To get the information out there, and it's important because a lot of people need to know when it comes to the shutdown that we're currently going through, right? In order for the CR to pass, and if you guys don't know what CR is, it's continuing resolution, right? It's not even a budget. It's just a resolution that they're trying to get passed so that they can continue funding the government. That's what it is. That's why they call it CR, continuing resolution. It's not even a budget, which I think is sad. I mean, I think the whole situation is sad because being the government that we are, right? The biggest military, biggest federal workforce, all the stuff that we provide, all the stuff that we do, and these guys, man, these losers. I'll be honest with you, these losers in DC, man, this is their job. This is what they're paid to do, and they can't even get it done. All the infighting, all the political stuff aside, man, it's just to me, it's just sad. If a lot of us functioned in our jobs the way the government does, dude, you would be fired. Right? You wouldn't last long at any company, especially in the private sector. Right? And so it's sad for me to see that they're like this, but that's just the nature of the beast. That's just the way it is. But at the end of the day, man, just to let you guys know, if the government, in order for the government to open, right, they have the CR that passed the House, right, and the Democrats are pissed off about that because they couldn't stop it in the House because they don't have enough votes to stop it. This is why elections are important, right? This is why elections matter, for good and bad, right? However you voted, whether you won or lost, whoever holds the power is the one that's going to push the agenda. And the way that it is in our country now, right? Everything is political, right? So this is why there's people that are now politically charged that are constantly asking me, so why can't they just do this? Why can't we just get along? Because it's ideologically driven now. That's how far apart we are in this country, right? The left is actually on the left, and the right is actually on the right, and that's the reality of it. Fada says, "Well, Republicans already denied the Democrats deal, so I'm just waiting to see what happens." Yeah, yeah, and they should. Faded. They should do that, and that's the kind of the point I'm getting to right now. They should deny it because what the Democrats in the Senate are doing because they have the numbers, right? And they don't have the numbers to affect change. They just have the numbers to block everything. This is where you hear about why the president's talking about the nuclear option, right? Because in the Senate, in order for that CR to get passed, you need 60 votes. Republicans only have like 53 people that can vote, and one of the Republicans, which is Rand Paul, of course, he's not. He's voting no. Right? He always does this, dude. I can't stand that guy. At first, I used to kind of respect him on principle, but this dude is just all he does is just be a wet blanket for his own party. For me, it's like, dude, just get out of politics, man. If you're not going to get in the fight, then just bounce. Him and Thomas Massey, bro, I can't stand either of those guys. Again, man, I used to like them in the beginning, man, because they stood on principle. But I've noticed if you look at their voting record, man, every time it's with the Republicans, dude, they'll vote no and claim principle. But with the Democrats, dude, they'll be chicken shit. Sorry about my language, guys, dude. I'm in a bad mood. But they're weak. They're weak, man, and that's the Republican Party in general. Right? And that's what, if you're new to this party, this is what a lot of people are figuring out right now. They don't like it, right? You actually have a party who's in power that can do things, right, and push the president's agenda. Again, the president who won both the electoral college and the popular vote, with everything going against it in 2024. In fact, every election, 2016, 2020, 2024, 2016, they treated him as a joke. Before, when they caught on, it was too late. He came in and he swept. It was amazing to watch. I still remember that election because I watched it full throttle, and it was amazing. The shock and awe on all the media, and I'm not just talking about our media, which is liberal leaning, right? And I'm talking about like across the world, man. There was because most media is liberal, right? And they just couldn't believe that happened. They thought he was a joke in the beginning, and then when they finally started to take him seriously, because he ran roughshod all through the Republican primary in 2015, leading up to the 2016 election. That he just destroyed all those people. But everybody thinks Republicans are clowns anyway, right? Or at least the Democratic side does, and all the liberals did. And then by the time they realized what was going on, it was way too late. In fact, Michael Moore had a really good clip where he talked about this, right? And that's kind of what you're kind of seeing in 2020, or that's what you saw in 2020. Definitely saw it again in 2024 with a little bit of with a little caveat to it. Um, I live in Texas. I hope Greg Abbott got a plan because I do not want New Yorkers migrating here. No offense, but we're already dealing with people migrating from California. That's a good point. That's a good point, brother. Faded. In fact, the governor of Florida also talked about that because a lot of people from New York, even because I used to live in Florida, bro. A lot of people from New York moved down to Florida in the 90s, and it did change the demographics of Florida, especially the town I lived in. The town I lived in when I first moved there was a real cow town, slow southern, nice people, small town kind of feel. The only thing that kept that gave it any credence was that it was outside of Disney World, Kissimmee St. Cloud area, and then a lot of people moved down from New York, dude, and it changed everything. And I'm not saying it's all bad, but I'm saying just that cultural. So that's why you see a lot of the stuff with immigration, whether it's legal or illegal, whether it's legal or illegal. That's what you saw in New York, bro. Right? Like, do you see the same thing happening in France right now, in Paris? Do you see the same thing happening in London, in the UK? You have all these people migrating, dude, and they don't assimilate, and that's a big problem. And that's what New York showed a lot of people. Right? Yeah, sure, there was a low turnout, right? And also, dude, let's not get it twisted, bro. All these, and I know why they're doing it. All these Democrats, all these liberals, calling it a blue wave. It's not a blue wave, dude. That's their state. New York is blue. New Jersey is blue. It's always been blue, right? A big upset was if it would turn red, and the Republicans have been making inroads in there, but I don't think they're ever flip their state. Dude. There's too many, especially in New York, man. There's just too many. They just got too many migrants there. They got too many people on the government team, right? It's bad. It's bad. Right? It's that's why assimilation is so important. If you don't assimilate, that's what happened where I lived. I live in Hawaii, right? And the local culture, first Hawaiian culture, then local culture, it's just disappearing because a lot of people are moving here now at such a clip from all over the world, moving here, and they don't assimilate to the local culture. And with the irony of it all is they come to Hawaii because they like that local culture here. Laid back, easygoing, people nice, a low spirit, all that stuff. But because there's so many people moving here, right, they're not able to assimilate to the culture because it could take upwards of a decade for somebody to fully assimilate, right? And by the time, but so many people move in, dude, it's lost. The culture is lost, and then you have people because other people with money are moving here. It's forcing the local people to move to the mainland. It's a vicious cycle, bro. So I don't argue with the band dude 100%, bro. You guys got to be careful of who you're letting in. I already saw some dude. I think he's from North Carolina or Tennessee, one of the mayor or whatever. He's welcoming people to the state. I'm like, dude, I wouldn't do that. Right? Because a lot of times these guys will bring the politics. Now, what you hope for, and what I think I see, for the most part, right, is people that are leaving California. They're leaving California for the reason of, like, they're leaving, going to a state, and they don't want that state to become like California. But I know you guys are also picking up some liberals too. That'll try and change your state blue, dude. I 100% agree with you, bro. Don't let it happen, man. Elect the governor, dude. Who will put like I know they're joking about the tariffs, but you guys got to do something. Like I'll put something like, dude, if you move to my state, you got to register Republican or something like that. Like I live in a blue state, dude. This state will never flip, and I feel sorry. I mean, there's people like every year they start to wake up to this stuff, man, and they try and instigate change here, and it just gets shut down every year. Because people here just vote blue. They just vote Democrat every single time. Generations of people have been raised to be Democrats here, and that's why they never change. And you suffer for that, dude. We're suffering now in my state. That's why electric energy bills, food, everything is expensive. It's always expensive, but it's going up even more. People can't survive, so people are moving away. That's the answer, and that's sad. It shouldn't be that way, but as you can tell, bro. Hey, Fader, I'm pretty sure you watch as much videos as I do on politics. It amazes me how ignorant people are. That's why I say people need to take a civics class. The simple fact that people don't understand what it means to pass a bill in the Senate shows the educational level of our society, and that's on purpose too. This is why a lot of liberals infiltrated colleges and the educational system. This is why the president went in and started shutting down the DOE, because all it is one big echo chamber of leftist propaganda. That's all it is. And they're educating generation after generation to hate this country, to hate themselves, to hate stuff that's foundational to the country. And by the time they realize that, this thing will fall apart and it'll be done. And then there's people in the country that are actually working towards that goal anyway because they hate this country. Instead of doing the honorable thing and leaving the country if you hate it, they want to bring it down. And there's a lot of people, ignorant people, out there doing that as well. And when it hits them, this is why I don't argue with people, man. Like I can go back and forth with somebody, but at the end of the day, I know I'm gonna win because of consequences, right? That all and that's not a win actually, because I don't want to go through that myself. Though if it does happen, just out of spite, I'll be okay. Just I've seen them suffer, right? Seeing them, that look on their face when they finally realize they're wrong, right? And the reason they realize that is because they'll suffer for it. Like there's gonna be some pain, man. If we don't turn this stuff around, pain is coming, and it's coming back, and it's coming down hard. The reason why I'm so driven on this kind of stuff, if I'm being honest, faded, because I have two kids, right? And they're just getting into adulthood right now, and they're gonna have to bear the burden of all this stupid decisions that our government has made and continues to make. Faded says, other than that new Silicon Valley in Austin, I stay in Houston. Yeah, Faded man, that's good, bro. Because that's another thing too, right? It's just like it's because of the demographic switch, a shift, and a lot of these businesses coming in, they're coming in there because of the tax breaks, because it's cheaper, it's more affordable for them, right? But they're driving the prices up on everything. It's almost like automatic gentrification. You know what I mean? So you guys gotta deal with that, man. You guys got a lot of land in Texas too, right? Good tax. No, I don't know. I'm not sure how the tax thing works, especially for businesses. But at the end of the day, right? That's a cultural shock, right? If you can get people that move there, right, that can actually adapt to Texas lifestyle and be there because they want to be in a state that people value their freedom and choice and stuff like that. Live and let live kind of thing, right? But when you do that, and then they bring the people with them, dude, that's just be careful, man. That's all I'm gonna tell you. That's all I'm gonna tell you, man, because you don't want to be like my state, bro. My state is we're in trouble. We have a governor here that believes in all this global warming crap. And whether global warming is happening or not, dude, that's not the point, bro. It won't matter about global warming, man, if your people have no power. You know? Like where we are, man, they're anti coal. Like the administration here is anti coal, and then they're shutting down all that coal power fire plants. And then for the last year and a half, um, I was laughing because we've been having brownouts. They say it's something that they're testing. It's all testing and testing, but it's not. It's brownouts. Right? Because when it gets hot, everybody's gonna run their AC. Because the thing about Hawaii, man, is like a lot of we didn't have central air for the longest time, but what we have here is trades. But what's happening on the island is there is a lot of development, right? There's condos and high rises and stuff like that going up at a clip. So we have a lot of urbanization, and with that urbanization, bro, you have to worry about the water flow. We live on an island. We have a natural aquifer, right? And with this constant building and stuff like that, um, traffic is bad. All this stuff, and it's just hotter, right? And a lot of it's man-made. And so what they want to do is they want to run it on green, but green's not gonna the grid won't be able to handle it because more and more houses now people are installing air conditioning, either window used to be window units, but now there's like split AC is available, and there's also central air that the new homes are building because they're building up new homes, and the energy bills here are ridiculous, bro. I know I hear people on the mainland complaining, and I get it, dude. I sympathize with them, but they probably their mind would be blown if they realize how much stuff costs. But yeah, dude, I know about Austin. I used to when I was younger, dude, I used to watch Austin City Limits. So it was that type of artistic town from back in the day, artistic county back in the day, right? But now, dude, it's my understanding it's like a mini San Francisco out there, which is bad. I was stationed in San Francisco, man. You don't want that, trust me. To be specific, me and Unlimited stay in Houston. Oh, okay, yeah. I know Unlimited's in Houston. Oh yeah, it was the Tennessee. He made that commercial to attract big business, and that's fine, dude. If they're gonna be business first, you know what I'm saying. But if they come over there and bring their liberal leanings, that's what pisses me off about this. I'm like, dude, you voted for this. Why are you leaving? Like those type of people. Now there's people that are fighting the good fight. Like that's what happened in California. I know the majority of the people that first started migrating were a lot of the people in the red. And it's funny because of those people left, and then there was people left in California that was kind of blue or in the middle, and they started to realize, and that's why you see counties in California turning red that wasn't red before. But of course, you saw what they did, right, with their gerrymandering. The Democrats, dude, they're diabolical, bro. They have no problem, dude. They lie, cheat, still. They'll do whatever it takes. Ray, hey, what's up, Ray, man? Welcome, brother. Yes, the famous don't like it, then leave. Yeah. I mean, uh, it is what it is, brother. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm that way, dude. Like if I mean, I'm sticking it out for my kids, and Hawaii is a nice place, right? And so this is why, like, I talk about it when I'm talking about Xbox stuff, things that I do for my own fiscal responsibility. That's what I do. Fada says, what I'm really worried about is the Muslims trying to build a Muslim-only city in Texas that Greg Abbott is putting a stop to. Yeah, you guys should stop that because they're not going to integrate. All you have to do is look at Europe and see what's happening in Europe. Now, some of those countries in Europe are getting wise to that. It's happening in Japan, dude. They were doing prayer in the middle of the street. And that's why the party, that Shinsedo party, grew by leaps and bounds. And people were saying, "Oh, you guys are right wingers and Nazis and fascists," and they're like, "We don't care, bro." They see when they did that, dude. Like Japan, look, Japanese people are really nice, dude, but they're kind of like that. You know, they'll smile and then they'll nod and they'll laugh and they'll go, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah," but man, when they walk away, and that's why a lot of the again international media was shocked. They were shocked. I wasn't. They seen that they see what's going on and they're like, no, we don't like this, so no, we're gonna change. If you guys didn't know this, man, this is what I try and say when I talk about Japan and gaming, right? Is that they'll self emote, dude. They'll go into themselves, bro. They have no problem doing that. Like you heard the new prime minister, she's like, yeah, we don't care if our population drops, we'll figure it out. And that was a shot across the bow to all the new world order people, those Davos people that want to control borders. You know, they're the ones that are pushing for you to take people from third world countries. Bro, bank that, bro. No, no, no. That those days is over. And Japan is like, nah. That's why she won. That's why they elected her, and then even the country was like, yeah, we need her. And she said, dude, well, and then her answer for everything was like, we'll just work harder, which pissed off a lot of people, right? Because that's not in a lot of people's lexicon, bro. It doesn't bother me, dude. That's how I grew up, dude. It was like, dude, if you couldn't afford cocoa puffs, you got cocoa poofs. You know what I'm saying? In fact, in my household, bro, we couldn't even get cereal. My grandma was like, "We don't need cereal." We had canned food, we had eggs, and we had rice. That's how I grew up. But yeah, I would not do that, dude. I mean, that's not just the Muslims as well, dude. Anybody that doesn't want to integrate into American society, that's the point that we've gotten to right now, in my opinion. Right? I mean, and if you run the stats, then you can see that, right? And it's kind of on us too, because we've kind of allowed that to happen. It's like I know growing up, when I was growing up, dude, it's kind of funny. Some of the people that consider themselves anarchists, dude, as they got older, had families, got jobs, got possessions and property, and then had kids, dude, they totally 180. Like they're when I read their Facebook posts, they're like, no, we have to stop this. No, this is not right. Because deep down inside, they knew it wasn't right, but it was, when you're younger, dude, it's just cooler to be flippant. It's cooler to be on the liberal side. But as you get older and you get responsibilities, that's the turnover, right? That's why I never believed in any of the election stuff because it bucks the trend, bucks the trend, bucks the trend of what happens normally, dude. And you can go back. I took this sociology class; it was awesome. Like there's patterns that go back, hundreds of years of how human civilization is and the way that they interact, right? So, like for example, the poorer the population, the more people that you have, right? There's an actual curve that you can study on that. It's amazing. And then the more civilized and more technologically advanced society becomes, the less the population becomes. Right? I studied that. I was like, oh, okay, that was cool. It actually changed my whole perspective on sociology. But yeah, dude, that's not. They have people have to integrate, especially in Texas of all places. If I were them, I just move to New York, or like there's certain states you can move to that they have their own sections in, which I'm not saying is good, but I'm just saying. And that's a shot across the bow, right? They're doing that on purpose. Just like in Japan, they started praying in the middle of the street. Now, if the way Japan is, dude, they just don't like that kind of stuff at all. Religion, non-religion, whatever. That's why they're having a lot of problems with the tourists because the tourists don't accommodate themselves to social norms. And in some aspects, it's hard because my kids go to Japan. They've been a couple times, and it's so crowded that it's hard. They don't have the infrastructure as well. Like Japan is known for being clean, the streets is being clean. Now there's a lot of trash because when tourists are there and they're buying food and eating, they don't really have the infrastructure, trash cans, all that stuff to take care of all those people. Like for me personally, they should do what Hawaii does. They just start taxing everybody, making it more expensive. Because then number one, they can get the funding for it to pay for the infrastructure, if to manage it better. And then a lot of times, a lot of the problems that they're having because it's so affordable and cheap. That's why people are going to Japan. So you're getting a lot of people that are going there that do these stupid things because they don't care, right? If you made it a little bit more expensive for them, and not necessarily on the tax, but just get your worth is what I'm trying to say. And so they can use that money because there's people in Japan that are struggling. Because Japanese people don't say much, man. But if you watch a lot of the interviews on YouTube of guys going around, both people that are there from the media and both people that actually live there, that communicate better with their own people, the Japanese people. Like you get them talking, dude, and then their real feelings kind of come out, and they can't help it, man, because they're feeling it every day. Who misses the older houses designs where you had a huge porch in the front or back of the house to stay cool in the summer? Yeah, Ray, that's 100%. That's how it was in the South. That's how they deal with stuff. You know what it is? We have a whole generation that's raised on air conditioning, so it's kind of hard, you know. So I mean, at the end of the day, I remember when I first moved to Florida, dude. I remember this one house, dude, but it was something like out of a horror story because it was run down and it was abandoned. But dude, it was the big porch, the big windows in the front, dude. It just looked like a haunted house. Though. I used to have to walk by that house all the time. I used to like walk real fast past it. Now back in the day, I'm pretty sure that was that was a beautiful house. Definitely plantation design, right? So, but I mean, and you don't have the space now, right? Because the way people build homes now, right? And space is an issue. I know it is where I live. Maybe not so much in the mainland because you guys got more space, but then not every place is. Um, you just can't build everywhere, like because you don't have the infrastructure in place, plumbing and all that kind of stuff. But I agree with you, dude. I do miss it. You want Japan to stay Japanese, then start making babies. I mean, yeah, that's one problem. But what they need to do is stop the influx of foreigners, right? Because the foreigners that they're bringing in, they make babies at a clip. So if you're bringing in like people from who's the main people, Kurdish people, right? Because they're more family oriented, right? And so they'll be having babies left and right, and then they'll outbreed the Japanese population because the Japanese population won't be able to keep up with them, and it'll actually change the demographics of Japan, and it'll actually change the culture. Because I see a lot of people on there is like, well, they can just learn the Japanese culture. I'm like, it's not, if it was that easy, dude, everybody would do that. That's why I know the president now he's talking about stopping all immigration, and I'm 100% for that. I'm 100% for that because we need people to assimilate first and become productive in this country. I also go as far as to, if it was me, I would go as far as to get people that want to come to this country. Like most people from the Eastern Bloc, right? Certain areas of Asia, especially Southeast Asia, right? They will come here. I mean, there's something to be said about them adapting, but one thing about people from Asia, especially Southeast Asia, is they like the freedom and they like the ability to improve their life, right? And that's what keeps them at a certain political range, right? But ultimately, you want people to move here that embrace the culture and embrace Americanism, right? Like remember, guys, "E pluribus unum." That's our motto. Out of many, one. Right? We're the total opposite of all these other countries, right? Because there's countries in this world that is one race and one culture, right? So when you get introduced to other races and cultures, that's why they have conflict. In America, we're already a melting pot, and we bear the scars to prove it, dude. And that's what's happening to these other countries, right? They look at what happens here, they're like, and it's funny, dude. If you went to a Japanese person and said, "Oh, you want to be like America?" and they'll tell you no, they like being Japanese, right? That's why they're fighting now, right? Because that's what they realize, right? Because these people are like, "Oh, it's good to have diversity." No, not when you're 99.9%, right? There's going to be a lot of turmoil. Yeah. Where I live right now, dude, like Hawaiians, that's the predominant. Hawaii has it's because we're Hawaiian. right? That's why it's Hawaiians, right? And we're basically extinct, right? Because we have so much mixing in the islands. Now we're an American state, and you're getting a lot of that all across America. And I know, look, there's places you can go in this country and it'll be predominantly white. I get that, right? But for the most part, dude, there's a lot of mixing in this country, right? So what we need in this country is we have the diversity. We don't need diversity. We're forced diversity. We need unity. Again, state motto: "E pluribus unum." We need to all be one. Other countries, what they're lacking in diversity, and they could use some diversity in some aspects, right? But what they're trying to do is they're trying to force it, and it'll wipe out the host culture. And I'm not down for that, especially since I've seen that happen to my own people. So, and I know what the end game's going to be because I'm already there. Like in 20 years, you probably won't have Hawaiians at all. My grandmother's generation was the last 100% pure Hawaiians, and I'm not just talking about just blood quantum. I mean culture and look. Like when you look at the family from my grandmother's generation, they look what you would consider Hawaiian, National Geographic, Hawaiians. Like if you guys look at, you can go on Google, you look at King Kamehameha, you look at the Queen, Lilo Kalani, you go look at those pictures. That's what Hawaiian should look like. If you come to Hawaii now, so much mixing, right? That, like they could look kind of Asian, they could look kind of white. Sorry, they could look kind of white. Sorry, I'm kind of getting off the clip, guys. I'll get back on to what we're supposed to talk about. We're half an hour in. Fede says, you seen Canada's budget meeting last week? They're in some real trouble. Yeah, I know they have been. I've been following people out of Canada. Um, dude, it's funny, dude. I wonder if that shoe's gonna drop. I know that there's provinces in Canada that want to go independent, but some of those people in the provinces like, look, if we can't get independence, let's just bring America in. That's what they want. Not everybody, but there's a majority now. Like it was kind of treated as a joke a couple of years ago. Now they're serious about it because they can't live, dude. People can't live like that, dude. People can't live being told what to do, man, and being forced to do things they don't want to do. That's something that's very anti-Western, and that's why you have the situations we have right now in our country. And Canada's another one, dude. There's that whole west end of Canada, dude, that they're more in tune with America's lifestyle, an American lifestyle, even though they're Canadian. Now, I look, I don't propose like I feel bad, man, because I mean my whole life, dude. And I've met so many people from Canada. They're really nice. I know they have a little chip on their shoulder towards Americans and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, man, a lot of them are nice. What's happening with Canada is like what's happening in New York, right? In New York, they're trying to flip the script, right? In Canada, dude, Canada took so many migrants and changed their whole. No, they're migrants that came in and adapted and assimilated, but they started doing it so much, right? And they're trying to course correct on that, and they have no choice because they have no money. Their government is broke, dude, and that's 10 years, dude. They voted that. They voted for that. Just like New York. New York voted for that. I know people talking about there's some cheating and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, it shouldn't even be that close. That people really knew what communism was or socialism is. Like even the dude's kind of backtracking now. Listen, Mandani, whatever his name is, sitting over there, dude. That blows my mind, bro. That dude has never earned anything his entire life, bro. He has money. His family's well off, right? And he's like for all the. This is why I don't like liberals, man, because they'll point that out about Trump. But I did a deep dive on him for my class when I was taking courses. And the thing about him, President Trump, is they have money, but they kind of came up the old traditional way about money. And his family, look, they have prestige, they have money. Don't get me wrong and stuff like that. But I think from his dad and the brother, that's what who really influenced him. This is why he gets along well with construction workers and blue collar guys. This is why when he meets with the unions like him, right? Because he believes that that your workers come first. I know Democrats don't like hearing that. They tried to push that, but proof is in the pudding. Right when this government shutdown happened, who did all the unions support? They're telling the Democrats, "Hey, open up the government." Because at the end of the day, getting back to the original point, it's the Democrats that own the shutdown. And I know for if you guys listen to the news, right, and especially if you're left leaning, you probably no, you're wrong. Say that's not what's going on. It's like 100% what's going on. You need 60 votes to pass this thing. Every Republican minus Ron, I live on an island, Paul, right? Every Republican has voted yes, and every Democrat, minus a couple of them that came over, right, has voted no. So if you need 60, if you do basic math, I know we've been teaching kids the new math. That's why they wanted to teach my kids the new math, right? So that there's no absolutes, right? But if you use the math I grew up with, right, You need 60 votes to pass this thing, and they don't have enough. That's why the CR is languishing. And the reason the Democrats and liberals are doing this is because they want to use this as a bargaining chip. So for a lot of the people, like go on YouTube and watch the videos for people on Snap losing their minds, they blaming Trump. A lot of them support Democrats. I tell them straight up in their comment section, I'm like, you should talk to your representatives because a lot of them are in blue states too that are complaining. Right? I say, well, your congressman is a Democrat, probably voted no. Like safe to say that that senator voted no. So what you should do is call them up, tell them to vote yes, and then you get your money. It's that simple. It's that fast. That's gonna happen. That's why I thought it was funny because there's a judge trying to get the president to pay the SNAP benefits because of the emergency situation. If you guys go and look at what detail an emergency situation for the Department of Agriculture, right? That's the guys that have it, right? Like in a FEMA situation, dude, it usually has to do with a natural disaster. Something has to be really bad. The problem with doing what the judge wants to do, which he shouldn't be doing anyway, I can't stand these judges, right? Is that it's technically an emergency situation that is man-made, right? Right? It's man-made because they're voting no. In fact, I told my coworker this. I said it'd be better if the judge told the Democrats to vote yes. That'll be faster. Because if I was the president, I would block that too. I would not go ahead with that because I think that's cause for him to get. They already tried to put him in jail for 90 how much I forgot how much things they brought against him, 90 something, right? Trying to because they didn't want him to run because they knew that he was going to win. They didn't want him to win. They were trying to take him out. That's why a lot of these guys are getting pulled up now in front of the courts. Right? It's not vendetta, dude. It's they broke the law, right? And so that's why they wanted him out, right? So what they end up doing, right? They that's what they try to do now, man. And I'm like, don't do it, bro. I tell the president straight up, don't do it. Not because you don't want people to eat or any of that kind of stuff, right? But at the end of the day, dude, you do that, and that's something that's I think that's misappropriation of funds. Personally, that's my opinion. I think it's misappropriation of funds because it's not an emergency situation. It's something that's happening because it's man-made because the Democrats are holding the government hostage. So if he goes ahead and does that, dude, I bet you a Democrat will come along and say, "Oh, he misappropriated the funds," and they try and get him out of office. So if I was him, no. And I don't care what the judge says. I don't know. Like I don't know why a lot of people put a lot of stake in these dudes. These people are not elected, right? Most of them are appointed. Right? The majority of them that are trying to block him, right, are liberal. They're overstepping their bounds. They're overstepping their bounds, right? Trying to find whatever ways. A lot of the blue states are bringing up all these things against him. They find a liberal judge, and that liberal judge is acting on it. And then that's why every time it goes to the Supreme Court smacks it down because they're overstepping their boundaries. They don't have the power to do that. We did not elect judges. We elected the president. And if you didn't elect the president, well, tough tofu, bro. You have to in the next election. Then you elect the guy. I have to do 4 years of Biden. You have to do 4 years of Trump. That's the democratic process that you guys talk about so much, that you guys cling to so much. I'm talking about people on the left. But yeah, it's faded, man. It'll be interesting to see that happen with Canada. Richie, of course, the only thing people invest in Canada are on real estate. It's the only safe bet. It adds zero value to the country. I feel bad for them, Richie, but they do have they do have the ability to be in energy. I mean, they I think they got more oil than Texas. I think they're right up there with Saudi Arabia. They're just not because of their net zero policies and stuff like that. That's why Alberta and Saskatchewan want to leave Canada. And if they leave, Manitoba and probably British Columbia will probably leave too. And it's funny because British Columbia is actually more liberal. I don't think they'd want to, but I think they wouldn't have a choice. That whole western block of Canada. It's not about whether I just enjoy. How can I put this, man? I don't want to come out wrong. I like watching this kind of stuff. I like the mechanizations. I say that all the time on the channel. So it's for me from the outside looking in, right? Because I'm not going to tell a Canadian what to do. And I feel for them, man, because Canadians are proud people, man. And they should be, bro. Their history is inundated with struggle and hardship and conquering the frontier. And we can get into the whole Native American stuff later, but I mean, I'm just saying they have a history of that kind of stuff, right? And so, I feel for them, man. It's sad that they're in that situation, but it's just another thing that's self-inflicted. Not really on the Western states; they've been suffering from it, but when you have Quebec, not Quebec, Quebec wanted to be separated for the longest time too, man. French Canadians, dude, I like French Canadians. I mean, I'm sorry, that's just the way I am. But where's that? Dude, I can't think right now. Toronto, where their capital is, right? It's Lib Central, dude. It's blue. It's blue. Blue Bayou, right? They're super blue, right? They're all liberal. there are activists over there running the government, and that's why a lot of the activists we have now, because back in the day, dude, during the hippie movement, man, they couldn't get any traction, even when they did stuff that was terroristic in nature, right? Blowing stuff up, bombings, right? Um, they just couldn't initiate the change that they wanted. So what they did, they infiltrated the system, and that's why a lot of systems are failing, right? Because the way our foundational government is set up, dude, it's antithetical to what a lot of people on the left and a lot of Democrats stand for nowadays. Right? You introduce that into the system, dude, it's going to get rejected, and either they need to go or the system's going to collapse. And I would prefer them to go because if the system collapses, then we all suffer. And I don't want to suffer because of other people's stupidity. I'll be honest with you. Ray says French disappeared in the USA, but in Quebec stayed alive, and you know how babies. Sure, the church was the one pushing this baby policy. Well, but they also stay true to their culture, bro. And I remember when Conan O'Brien went up there, dude, I was giving him crap, and there's people in Canada that gives him crap because they like to speak French and they set themselves apart. But you know, that actually strengthens my point with Japan. Like that's what they're gonna lose. Right. In fact, I think what Japan's going to do, and this is what I recommend them doing, is because there's just having babies too, right? I mean, there's are you financially stable? And right now, Japan has a lot of economical stuff they got to deal with. Some of it is tied to their population, but not everything. And if there was one country, I think that would came up with AI and robots and stuff like that, it would be Japan. And I think they're going to use tech to overcome those shortages. And I 100% agree with them on that. Right? Because you can't change the way the culture is in one. It'll be too disruptive, man. It'll be too disruptive. A lot of people forget that Japan was imperial at one point in history, and they flex that power, man. When they move as a when they move as a country, when they move as a unit, as a nation, dude, they're unstoppable. In fact, in order for us to stop them, we dropped two bombs on them. Nagasaki and Hiroshima. That was a tough decision we had to make. We did it because these guys would not stop. That's how hardcore they are. So I don't worry about them as far as their population. They need to find something to level it out, though. There's a lot of reasons why countries that are civilized or not civilized, advanced, right? Their modernity, right, is because with in these systems like in the U.S., right, when you have kids, there's a cost tied to it, right? Because you have to maintain a certain level of lifestyle, and that's what causes people not to have kids a lot of times. Great. So yeah, the world is ruled by old farts. Yeah, yeah, 100%, man. I mean, that's what we're struggling right now with Congress on both sides. But again, just to let you guys know, man, know your enemy, dude. You have to understand what's going on, right? And you can't trust the media because the media is again they sense blood in the water, but it's false. It's a false alarm, right? If you just do a Google search and look at the news, a lot of the stuff that they're talking, right, they're going back to their old things. They're talking about Trump this, Trump that, because they have Trump derangement syndrome, and it's not going to help you guys. If you have that, dude, you need to get that taken care of. I'm not saying you have to like the president. I don't say that it's not. If you can hate him, you can like him. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, how does it affect you? And what you saw in New York, a lot of people voted against their best interests because they hate the president that much. In fact, they did a poll and they asked the people who voted for Mandani. It wasn't really to support Mandani. They just hated. They just hate President Trump. A lot of them are younger. A lot of young white female liberals, and then joined by the over 40 liberal woman, right? Those people that are unhappy or or live on a sense of life of privilege in their suburbs with their two kids, because the husband brings home the bacon, and they might work too. They might be career people, right? Have no clue that everything that they own is because of the capitalist system that they hate. That's why I can't stand these people, man. The level of privilege and how out of touch they are. Like people make fun of like Bill Gates. I do, right? When somebody asks him how much a gallon of milk, he has no idea because he doesn't shop, right? He's rich, right? But a lot of these people, man, they're in that situation, man. And that's why you have to drop knowledge on people, man. Because at one point in time, but we'll keep people honest, and it's kind of happening. I mean, it is. People still do this, but it's changing, man. It's people would vote in their best interest, and whether they like somebody or not, it didn't matter. It's like how are you going to affect my paycheck? How are you going to affect my taxes? How are you going to affect the the part of me buying a house or affording a house? A lot of the stuff that another thing too, that like the news is trying to spin that this is Trump's fault. It's not. Dude, this has been going on for years, and right now it's reaching a crescendo. Whether it was Trump or Kamala in office, dude, it didn't matter, dude. It's time to pay the piper, man, because people have been living lifestyles that they could not afford for the longest time. And now what's happening? What's the perfect storm is that people that did the right thing are suffering as well. So trust me, man. Just go on YouTube. Just go look at people out there telling their life situation. Right. I saw this one lady. She's like, "I did it right. You know, I went to school. I got a good job. My husband's got a great job. We have 2 kids. Right. We have a mortgage. We did this. We put the money down. They did. I mean, they did everything. Got a savings. Right. But now what's happening with the cost of everything? It's just expanding so much and so fast that that they're underwater. Right now they like some people got laid off. They lose their job. I'm not getting paid myself. Right, you got all this stuff going on, then you got to dip into your savings, right? And then once the savings start running dry, man, because these people have mortgages upwards of anywhere from 1,700 to 32 3250, and that's a video for another day. But it's this is real world consequences that people are dealing with across the board. So if you did the responsible thing and hurting, imagine if you did the non-responsible thing, and that's what people nobody's talking about that I talk about on my channel, right? Is because people make bad choices, and that's why they're suffering as well. And I'm not sitting here like happy that they are, dude. I feel for them, I do, because I've done stupid things in my life, dude, and I've been there, and I know how it feels not to have food, right? Like right now, where I'm at right now, dude, you know, I'm going back to my old ways, bro. I'm gonna be eating today for lunch. I'm gonna have sardines from the can. Now it's healthy because it's in olive oil, and actually sardines is good for you if you guys are having blood issues, lack of iron. If you guys get dizzy, you guys have anemia, go get some sardines and olive oil, right? Because if you have those problems, you probably have inflammation, right? So go get a can of sardines and just whack that can of sardines. Eat a can of sardines maybe once a day or every other day. Just rotate it into your diet, right? And then I got some pickled onions. Pickled stuff is good for you as long as you're not preservatives, right? Like watch out how they pickle your stuff, but you know, and right there, that's my meal. Not only is that affordable, but it's healthy. And that's another thing that's happening right now, which I like seeing. Right, I like seeing this is people are beginning to realize, you know, for all the people that sit there, these are liberals too, man. They sit there and denounce the capitalist system. There are issues with capitalism, but a lot of it is the way people interact with their capitalism. Right? It's not just capitalism in and of itself. Yeah, there's some issues that we could work on, right? But you're also part of the problem. A lot of people are part of the problem, right? You bought into the luxury lifestyle and stuff like that when you didn't need to. That's why stuff like this happens, right? So that it can be. It's almost like a reset. But unfortunately, there's a lot of pain that's coming with this way, and had people been more responsible, we wouldn't be dealing with this, or at least less people would be dealing with it. But like I said, if you're middle class and you're hurting, and you're doing well, and now you're hurting, dude, people under you, they've dropped from lower middle class into poverty. There's people that can't afford rent, they have to live in a car, they have to get a gym membership at like a Planet Fitness so they can shower there because they still have to go to work, right? So they're the working poor. Right? You have a lot of that stuff going on right now. That's the reality of it. Right? And if you watch the media and you watch the Democrats, man, they just blame Trump on it, dude. This is the stuff that's happening right now in the country, dude. If that's how you're gonna approach things, dude, then you're lost. You're not good to anybody, especially yourself. You have to look at things honestly, man. You have to, because at the end of the day, you're gonna end up hurting because of it. Right? And the media's out there, the Democrats, dude, they're over there trying to, they're causing all this grief and pain because they won't be honest about it. To be honest with you, if it was for Trump and there's a Democrat in office in Kamala, you'd never hear about the economy in the news because President Trump is there. That's why thank God he's the president because the media at least acknowledges it. Right? Now they lie about it, right? They smoke and mirrors. I will say though, like the last 2 weeks with the budget thing, like they were calling Democrats to the carpet in some sense, right? Because once Trump left office in 2020, bro, they all collapsed because people weren't watching them for their news. People were watching them because they hated Trump. It's funny, dude. It's almost like Xbox, right? It's like how Xbox dominates the media in the gaming media, dude. That's the same thing with the president. He dominates the political and just regular news. What he does, what he says, it's always about him 24/7. And that's why a lot of these people get exposed, right? Because they're so much they're just too focused on him, dude, that they get caught in their own lies. And to bring it back to what I'm talking about, dude, don't listen to Democrats. They're a bunch of liars. They don't care about you, right? In fact, most of Congress, dude, they all need to be. I think the majority of them need to be fired or taken out of their positions, man. I don't know how you can have a $180,000 or $220,000 salary every year and be worth 35 million. The average person can't do that, right? So it's incestuous in DC, dude. That's why, again, just getting back to what I talked about earlier, before I wrap this up because it's been an hour. And if you guys are new to the Republican Party, dude, this is the reality, dude. The party's weak. It's always been weak, right? What we need right now, we need people that are gonna fight, right? They gotta fight because the Democrats don't care, dude. They're pushing back hard, right? And they're lying and spinning everything, right? And the media's right back to their old tricks, helping them, talking about, well, this is the Trump shutdown, right? The only thing that they can nail the president on, and they're kind of getting smart with this, is what the president said during his campaign. And then the president was talking about how, um, the cost of living, all of this stuff is down. Sure, there's the metrics that show that kind of stuff, but I think the president needs to realize at the end of the day, it's how the people feel. One of the reasons he won the popular vote is people voted for him for one issue. The one issue voted for him. The independents voted for him, people like that. That's why he won such a big margin, right? And why he won the popular vote, because a lot of these people wanted him to change the economy around. And he's doing a lot, dude. And again, I just want to stress this, dude. It's not even been a year. This dude has only been 9 months. I know it feels like 5 years because of the way he moves and the way he works. But one thing I think he needs to concentrate. If I had his ear, I would tell the president, look, you need to look at what's happening with the people, because those are the ones that put you into the office. Man, that's why your numbers are kind of slipping. I don't put a lot into polls, but what I will say is that you see people, because the danger. Here's the danger, guys. Here's the danger that's happening with people, and I see it every day. Because the situation I'm in. They don't care if it's Republican or Democrat. They're losing. They're losing their hope in the system, which can be good, right? Because I'm a limited government kind of guy. I think our government is way too big. But what happened is that that hope gets replaced by apathy, and once people become apathetic, dude, that's a whole nother issue you got to deal with, right? And that's something that the president and his administration don't need right now. So he has to at least acknowledge this. And I'm not saying he does a stimulus check, right? I mean, whatever money he's getting from the tariffs, right, and all this kind of stuff, maybe he can fly some money that way. But what he needs to do is address the issue, right? And he's trying to do that now. That's why he's going to the Republicans, telling them they need to do the nuclear option. I've been saying this for the past 3 weeks, but like I said, the problem with the Republican Party is they're weak. They're a bunch of betas, right? They live in an they're in the same echo chamber as Democrats. Democrats are just more psychotic than Republicans. Right. In fact, I wish some Republicans would be a little bit more psychotic because at least they do something. But they're sitting there on their high moral ground, saying we can't get rid of the filibuster because when we're not in power, right, we want to have that option. And I'm like, dude, there'll be no country. If you guys don't act on this stuff, there will be no country. That's how bad it is right now. You guys are sitting on your thumbs right now, twiddling your toes. Meanwhile, the country's going to crash and burn. And you don't have to worry about the filibuster, whether you get to use it or not, because there'll be no country. That's where we are right now with all of this. That's why they need to act. Because when the Democrats come into power, dude, they already tried to bust the filibuster once, and there was two sane Democrats that actually stood up against them, right? And then what ended up happening, they both got primaried and they're gone. And I think they stepped away. But the pressure was so intense they had to leave. We could use them right now because we probably passed this vote, but that's not the way it is, man. Moving forward, dude, it's going to get worse. Look who they elected, dude. Look who the new party is, dude. All the old guard of the Democratic Party, Nancy Pelosi's leaving, right? That old ratchety liberal piece of trash. she's out the door, man. Like they can't even they know what time it is. Do they even know, right? And they're acknowledging it by leaving. Chuck Schumer, he's done. Their party is going to be the Mandanis and going to be the ALCs and the Squad and all these people that you see, man. These people hate this country. And if you guys want to go down that road, man, that's on you guys, man. I just recommend for the rest of you guys, go get your licenses, get your guns, prepare yourself to learn some survival skills, get your 25 years of supplies. Right? But who wants to live like that, honestly, guys? Right? Everybody likes things the way they are, but at some point in time, man, you're gonna have to fight for this. You're gonna have to wake up, and that's what I'm gonna leave you guys with right now because it's bad, right? And we have a party in the Republicans that's absolutely worthless, right? The president came on and told him straight up. We told him everything, right? The one person that saved their party. There'd be no Republican Party if it wasn't for Trump. None. Just zero. They were on the edge. They were about to die, right? And there would be no party if it wasn't for him. And the one guy who's been the most successful, that's been winning everything, that put them back on the map, that gave them power back, that did all this kind of stuff for him, the one person, that's the person they don't listen to. Right? So we're in deep kimchi, man. We are. We just are. The Republicans, like they can't cave. They can't cave on snap. They can't cave on the Obama funding because that's going to add more debt. And then once you give in to the Democrats, like spoiled bratty kids. Once you give in to them, that's it. Spoil the rod, spare the child. Spare the rod, or spoil the child, spare the rod, or spare the rod, spoil the child. That's the situation we're in with the Democrats. Or you can't give in to them. So the best option to have is just stuff it down their throat. But Republicans are weak, and that's why we're sitting here having this discussion. Anyway, 1 hour, guys. That's good enough for me. I just wanted to wrap this up. I might do some Xbox stuff, dude. There's not really much going on, or at least things I'm interested in. I was thinking about talking about Game Pass a little bit because I see a lot of stuff that's happening in the community. I don't know. I'm just not feeling it. What I am feeling is Outer Worlds too, so I'd rather play my game than talk about Xbox. If I'm being perfectly honest, I know you guys feel the same way. There's a bunch of games that dropped in Game Pass. I was shocked, and we haven't even got the new COD yet. I don't know, man. I guess I'm not feeling the new COD. Just I played the demo. It was okay. I thought it was okay, but for me, I'm pretty sure once it comes out, I do like the maps. The maps were pretty cool. It felt a little bit like Ghost. What's that one they had? Man, I couldn't stand it. That's the one COD I absolutely can't stand. Because there's a lot of people just freaking flanking, man. It was irritating. There's already cheating going on, man. In the game. That's what ruins it for me. But I got Auto Rose too. Got a bunch of games you can play, man. I got my backlog. When it comes to Xbox and games, it's untouchable. Anyway, guys, I want to shout out the chat. Ray, man, thanks for jumping in, man. I didn't know you were gonna jump into that. And again, the chat is open for anybody, whether you agree or disagree. I have no problem with anybody coming in and talking. Faded Blaze, man. Again, thanks for being there, man. We'll see what happens, bro. Stay tough in Texas, bro. Don't let them take it over. Yeah, there's a reason Texas is Texas, man. Don't let these liberals come in there, man, and because they voted wrong and they're suffering. Right. Yeah, they should stay in their state and fix it, dude. That's what I want to try and do here. But like everybody else, if it doesn't work out for me, I'll probably have to Vegas. Cool. But anyway, Xbox All In channel hosted for everybody.